As soon as my friends and I arrived at the Airbnb, we welcomed the soft glow of the house against the cool, moonlit night. It wore an inviting yet unfamiliar charm, just like any other vacation home. Both the reasonable price and the quaintness of the house contributed to our initial enthusiasm. Apart from its appeal, the house had an eerie essence. The unfailing creepiness crawled up our spines as whispers slithered through the silent hallway, and the air got chilly at odd hours. We brushed off these peculiarities, assumingly to the age and stories the old house had collected over the years. Upon reaching, we received a welcome email from our host detailing house rules, with a brief mention of some discrepancies in the house layout. We paid little attention to it, already lost amidst the euphoria of starting our vacation. The sprawling house shared an intimidating presence, and as we wandered, we discovered a locked room tucked at the basement's corner. That alone sent me curious, questioning our host's disclosure. On our town visit, we met a weary old man, Mr. Harrow, behind the counter of a local antique shop. Engaging with our curiosity, he unraveled tales about our temporary residence. With haunted expressions, he revealed a series of past tenants vanishing under unexplained circumstances, breathing gloom into the otherwise jovial group of friends. Back in the house, we found an old diary stashed under a dusty carpet. The entries were from previous inhabitants, unveiling accounts of nocturnal whispers, unyielding cold spots, and anomalies focusing toward the locked basement door. Unsettled whispers escalated to echoing footsteps accompanied by the fleeting apparitions. Our evenings, those should have been filled with laughter and jest, but were drowned in silence and haunted by spectral figures concentrated mainly around the forbidden room. One night, Daniel got locked in his room. The very next morning, he reported the coldest night with an unshakable feeling of being watched. Emily began sleepwalking and having horrific nightmares, always finding herself in front of the locked basement door, frantically scratching it. Each encounter laced fear into our hearts. It soon became apparent we needed to dig deep. Our collective bravery took us to the basement door, and with a little wobble and determination, the door creaked open. What awaited was a dark history. In that same room, a gruesome murder-suicide had taken place decades ago. Mr. Harrow had more to tell. Our extended stay over 3 days, he warned, would awaken the house's curse, aimed at its inhabitants. That was it. We knew we had to leave. However, the evening brought with it a fierce storm. Fallen trees blocked our only way out, confining us to the house marked with a dreadful curse. The phenomenon turned violent. The haunting whispers turned into anguished screams, and phantom figures became aggressive. The crescendo of terror peaked with Robbie disappearing overnight. We found his belongings scattered near the unlocked room. Frantic attempts to contact the outside world were unsuccessful. Unable to bear the terror, we reached out to the local pastor. With fear in our hearts yet determination in our eyes, we resolved to free ourselves and our lost friend. The pastor led the exorcism. Our lives hinged on a thread of hope. The night turned into a battlefield against vengeful spirits. Paranormal phenomena continued. Possessions, screams, and moving shadows. The exorcism appeared successful at first, until a horrifying twist shredded our newfound hope. An unearthly scream echoed, sending shivers down our spine, followed by a dreadful silence. The dawn broke, bringing with it an uncomfortable calm. The house seemed empty, but to our relief, Robbie appeared, his face as pale as the ghost itself, but alive. Now that the path was clear, we didn't dare to wait any longer. In a flash, we hastily left the haunted house behind. Only a few hours after our departure, a familiar notification popped up, and a mail from our Airbnb host asking if we enjoyed the stay. On trying to reply, we realized the listing was deleted. We silently agreed to never book an Airbnb again. Days grew into months, but the fear still sprinkled in whenever we reminisced about the vacation. One day, while unpacking, I found a small antique piece from the house resting in my bag. As I looked at it, the echoes of whispers filled my mind again, a chilling reminder that we may have left the house behind, but certain things chose to stay with us. As an avid traveler, I've seen more roadside motels than I can count. My name's John. Used to hotels and motels this time, I decided to mix things up. An Airbnb it was. Scrolling through hundreds of listings, my eyes fixated on a grand old Victorian mansion. It was affordable, so I shrugged off any skepticism, booked it, and anticipated a fanciful stay. Upon arrival, my host, Peter, welcomed me with an unusual warmth. It was more the warmth of a man hiding secrets than that of a gracious host. As he led me through the mansion, the juxtaposition of grandeur and an unworldly vibe stuck to the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease, but wrote it off as simply my city-bred paranoia acting up. Silence wasn't a resident of this mansion. Disembodied whispers and phantom footsteps snaked around the residence, veiling the night with unrest. Plagued by the disturbances, sleep eluded my eyes. When I confronted Peter, his swift dismissal and explanation of typical sounds of an old building did nothing to suppress my discomfort. Over a cup of bitter coffee and a chat with the local barista the next day, I shuddered learning of the mansion's past. Local whispers labeled it haunted. Laughter turned to a gasp that very night when a spectral figure stalked the mansion hallway. As if that wasn't enough, I found the mansion's artistic decor wasn't stationary. One particular abstract piece morphed, unraveling a gruesome murder scene. The apparition was everywhere. This time, face to face in my suite, she was not just an observer. Manifesting as the woman murdered in the painting, she pleaded for help. Trapped and restless, she wished me to unravel her unsolved murder mystery. The betrayal hit hard as I learned Peter, my host, was the late husband of this unfortunate woman. I resolved to escape this labyrinth of horrors. But my attempt seemed to amuse the mansion, as no matter where I ran, its walls enfolded me further. It was as if an invisible leash kept me bound to Peter's sinister playground. Fueled by fear and anger, I confronted Peter, threatening to expose his darkest secrets. Consumed by rage, he lunged at me. Death would have met my eyes had it not been for the interference of my ghostly ally. A nightmarish reality became my battleground. Tucking fear under determination, I discovered the earthly remains of the woman buried in the grounds of the mansion. Poring over old texts and rituals, I conducted a liberating ceremony. As her spirit ascended, the mansion seemed to sigh in relief. Its existence weaned from Peter's control, also allowing my escape. Post the horrific episode, I heard that the mansion sold one final time and stood no more in the following weeks. My Airbnb gamble turned into an unexpected fight for survival. I vowed to play safe henceforth and never booked an Airbnb again. That nightmare morphed into an unsettling memoir titled Eerie Suites. Every page was a cautionary tale reminding others to tread carefully when choosing an Airbnb. After all, one can never know what really lies beneath a cozy, charming description, can they?
My name is Julia, a city girl with a demanding job as an editor at a leading publishing company. Constant deadlines had taken a toll on me, and I needed to escape the city chaos for a little while. I found a unique Airbnb listing, a quaint old house nestled deep in the woodlands of Montana. It seemed like the perfect retreat for a quiet vacation to unwind. After a long drive, I arrived at the house around late afternoon. The host, an elderly gentleman named Elias, greeted me at the door. His hunched back and crooked smile were the first signs of his peculiarity, but the hospitality in his voice made me feel welcomed. I spent the first day exploring the curiosities of the house, delighted to find every room steeped in history and wandering in the nearby birch woods. Elias joined me for dinner, recounting chilling tales of the house's past, of shadows playing tricks on the walls, whispers echoing through the halls when there was nobody else. I laughed at his stories, choosing to believe them as part of the house's eerie charm. Night came, and with it came creaking sounds. At first, I convinced myself it was just standard for an old house, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease when I found my things moved around. The book I left on a bedside table was in the hallway. The kitchen door was ajar, even though I clearly remember closing it. The following day, a violent storm rolled in, severing me from the outside world. My calls couldn't connect, and the internet was dead. Stranded and alone, I was jumped awake by a sudden thump above. Slowly plucking up my courage, I went searching, only to find a hidden room in the attic. The room was filled with strange symbols scrawled on the walls, the furniture disturbed as if someone was in a rush. The coldness sent shivers down my spine. Something about the room felt wrong. Then came the whispers, soft and gentle at first, rising like a symphony until it filled my ears. I dashed out of there, heart pounding with fear. Later that night, while flipping through random books to distract myself, I found Elias's diary hidden among other old books. The entries shocked me as I read through them. Elias had been haunted by unseen forces, his sanity hanging by the thread, weakening with every passing day. He wrote about surrendering to the entity and how it was part of his life now. The diary dropped from my trembling hands. Just then, a cold breeze blew the door open, and I saw them. Shadowy figures moving in the hallway, whispering voices calling out my name. Horrified, I tried to outrun them, hiding in rooms, under beds, anywhere. But they found me everywhere. The house had turned into a terrifying maze. Seizing a moment's reprieve, I remembered Elias's writing about how he confronted the spirits. Gathering all my courage, I stood my ground when I next encountered them. You have no power